Okay, so we're back for another deck profile. This one will be a little different. So this is going to be a 4-part series where I'm going to be going over each of the different factions. So the main 4, Volnar, Atlas, Yomaj Front, and Wonderverse. So we're going over, this will be somewhat of like a budget deck because it'll be only using 1-star, 2-stars, and then a few starter deck cards for certain decks. And then some decks might use a little bit more of the starter deck cards. This series is more for like a budget because a lot of times you do have extra cards laying around, especially for those of you that go into like a few boxes here and there. And then maybe you have some friends that want to like try to get into the game. So rather than building like a full out deck, you could probably look at some of these that I'll be having for the different factions. Again, they're only pure of each faction, but you can mix and match depending how you want to build. But these are using cards that, again, because they're 1-stars and 2-stars and a few star deck cards, that they'll be pretty easy to obtain or at least have extras of. Okay. So the first one we're going to do, so this is part 1, we'll be focusing on Volnar. So this one is going to be using Knight as our ruler. And this one is going to focus a little bit on the Earth attribute. So the first card we have is for giatron. So this card is one of the main counters because it has the ability that if you have like 4 life or less, when you counter it, you get to heal. So it lets you potentially stay alive a little bit longer. But we're not, it has the ability to discount, so we do have quite a bit of Earth units in this deck that we'll go over, itself being an Earth as well. It's also a beast to note, but we'll get back to that in a bit. But for the Earth attribute, you can be discounted, where you, for every 2 Earth you remove in your graveyard, you can have it cost 1 less. So essentially if you remove 6, you can make it be free. But the main part they're running this is that it has the ability Seismic Shockwave, where standard action you can DR 1 Earth, you deal 1 damage to all enemy units. So there's a lot of times in like the middle to the late game when you have quite a few Earths that you can actually DR enough to just board wipe your opponent. And then this card also being a 3-strike is very relevant because it's very powerful and it can hit very well. The touchdown and the overdrive is to essentially get rid of like excess sets if your opponents are running multiple sets on their deck. But this one, for most decks, usually they'll set like 1, maybe 2 max. So usually we're not too worried about that ability. But main one is for the board wiping as well as the counter to heal. Next we are running for Rhovar. So this is another 3-strike. It is a beast and an Earth. And then it has the ability of when it comes to play, you can rest one of your opponent's energies, which is actually fairly relevant in general because a lot of the decks are energy based. And actually all the decks in this series is actually energy based. But it also has, when it's Genesis summoned, you can actually destroy a unit in the defense zone, which lets you to attack more. And then with all of your high strike in this deck, that's actually very relevant. Next we have 4 Zarberios. So this one is not an Earth, but it is a beast because you are using that as a sub-theme as well. And this one is just, it's a level 2 that has 3-strike, which is the whole reason why we're using it. And we actually can Genesis summon into it because it is a beast with a few of our summoners. Okay, so next card we have is Zahira. So this is the beast Genesis summoning card. It can also do Abyss summoning, but the whole point we're using it for is to summon into beasts. So you can go into any, you can go into Rhovar, or you can also even go into giatron as well if you really need to. But the main part is that when you touch down, you can have it, summon another beast in your deck. Zahira is also an Earth. So again, if it gets second or damage, it can be used to DR for giatron. Next we have is for Sith. So again, this card is just very good because with you can revive it with Zahira and then Genesis summon into any level 3. As well as being level 2, it can change itself, to level 2. And then we have another Genesis summon here that will let us summon, out our level 3s as well. as well as its giant killing ability is also pretty relevant, especially if you did like a mirror match with this deck, because we do run level 3s. It can also potentially take out some of those. We are also running 4 Anubis, because again, this is an Earth, as well as it has the ability, because there are a lot of hand rulers in the format in general, being able to look at your opponent's hand and like take like the best card out of it. You can just like place this in defense zone and it'll be fine. I mean, again, just because it is another Earth target for giatron. We also have 4 brutauros. So again, it's an Earth and a beast. It has 2 strike for 1 cost. So again, can hit very hard. We have 2 beast caller shaman. So this is the other Genesis summoning for beasts. It is also an Earth. So again, if it gets second or damage, we can use it for the D or for giatron. Next we have is 4 wescalot, the legionary. So this is just the energy boost to untap one of our energies, so that way we can continue playing, especially if we play like our level 3, and then we can play this level 2, so that way on our next turn we won't get stuck at only 2 energy. We also have 4 beast barbarian, so again another an Earth as well as a beast, and then just very good clearing power with its 5 power. Next we have is 4 ragdoll cat sits, so again another target for Zahira, or even for like beast caller. If you want to make it like a level 1, you can go into a 2 with beast caller, or you can even go into a 3 with Zahira if you want. But again, it is also in Earth, so if it does get into your graveyard and you have multiple copies, you can always remove some for giatron to make it discounted. Next, we only have 2 Fell Wolverines. The next card will go after this. You could actually replace with 2 extra Fell Wolverines. Fell Wolverine, again, is an Earth, as well as a Beast, and then just its CNT is just a special summon itself. But you could shuffle it back into the deck with, you know, like Zahira, or if you have it out, you can use it with Beast Caller and like special summon a level 1 Beast, and then just make the shuffle it back into your deck. The next card we have is 2 the Jewel of the Fortress, of the Forest. So this card is, you can play it when you have 3 or more Earth cards in your graveyard, as well as 1 allied beast, or sorry, 1 allied Earth card in play, and then you get to heal 1. The reason I would replace, the only reason we're running 2 is that this card is actually fairly hard to activate at times, because like in the early game, if you don't have the amount of Earth units required in your graveyard, as well as you need to have a unit on field, there's a chance that this card does actually nothing. And then because with giatron, sometimes you'll pay the discount to remove Earth units in your graveyard, and then sometimes you don't have enough to have the 3 in your graveyard to trigger Jewel of the Forest. So I think 2 is a pretty good number, but again, you could always replace it for 2 more Fell Wolverines if you would like. And the last card we have is 4 Wall of Shields, just to, again, prevent us from taking unnecessary damage, you know, from 3 striker rulers or 3 strike units as well. So that's it for this deck list. So again, or this deck profile, the deck list for this will be in the description below, as well as, again, this is a 4-part series, so this is part 1 where we'll go over Volnar, and then the other parts will be released later on, and then they'll go over the different other factions, and then I'll probably, because set 4 has been pushed back, I might like revisit this series later on after set 4 comes out, because maybe making, you know, like these common or, you know, budget friendly decks with like extra cards would be a lot easier. And then this could be a format that you could play with maybe like just like with friends who maybe aren't as invested, where you can have like all these different, you know, decks that you have out of your extra cards, and then you can use that to play to kind of get them into it, and then it'll lead to you know, maybe buying like certain other types of decks that they would like. But if you have any questions, or if you want to see other deck types, please do let me know in the description below, and then I will see you guys in the next one.